Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and we welcome you once again to Interesting Ideas. Today is Wednesday, and it is the 7th of September. We are moving forward, as I said yesterday, well into the new year. That's right. We begin the year. January 1st is a date on the calendar, but we begin the new year along with the Jewish tradition in the fall of the year in September, perhaps flowing into October. This is where we're starting over, starting again, making new and better plans for how we're going to live well in the year that's before us. So that's what we do. I started by mentioning that not only is something we need to do, but also that I'm very much convinced that it's going back to school, and all of us who want to be leaders need to be learners. And so one of the things I'm going to encourage you to do is to discover what is it you're going to learn this year. What are you going to study this year? What are you going to get better at? Now, I'm going to make a suggestion, and of course it's an entirely self-serving one. I'm going to suggest that you learn how to be a broadcaster. Yes, right. Learn how to use the radio, the video television, and the performing arts to be a better communicator. It truly is the experience economy, and work is theater, and every business is stage. And tomorrow we're going to talk about that, where I'm simply suggesting don't interview ever again. Don't be interviewed, and don't ever interview again. We've got something far better for you to consider. But the title of my little presentation today is just that. In terms of education, I want to tell you the story of the college-educated tow truck driver. A remarkable man, the college-educated tow truck driver. And I think you'll learn some very interesting things from it. That's part of the program for this Wednesday, the hump day. The day we thump it. We actually make sure that the week is going to end as best as we can. And the program begins right now. Well, unfortunately, one of my least favorite places to go is actually a very nice place. It's Colorado Springs, Colorado. And that is kind of halfway between when we lived in Arizona and when we made our trips back up to Minnesota. And it's not quite halfway, but, it was usually the 1 or 1.5 day of the 3-day drive to get there. Well, the reason Colorado Springs is a lovely place there in the, the Rocky Mountains. But we've had some car troubles about 3 times where we went through that city. Now, I don't know why, but it just happened to be that way. And one of them was, it was really bad. We were coming back, and we were going along, and just as if we get through Colorado Springs, then we're going to be on freeway, interstate most of the way, and we can make it well. But just as we're going down to get ready on the interstate, all of a sudden, this woman pulls out from the side of the road right in front of me. I didn't have time to stop. She kept coming, and all of a sudden at the back of the car smacked it and banged it really good. Oh, no. And that's when the car was relatively new. Well, we got out, and I said, "You hit my new car." And she said, "And it's my new car." And actually, she really had a brand new car. And she said, "Oh, what will my husband say?" Well, It was kind of traumatic for us all, and I tried to comfort her down. She had 2 small children in the back seat. Of course, we had to call the police and take care of all that. And it turns out, unfortunately, that she had smashed it in such a way that I wouldn't be able, even though it was smashed, I thought, well, maybe I'll be able to drive it home back to Tucson, and then we'll be able to get it fixed there at our convenience. No, it couldn't be fixed. And so we're going to have to find a place, 1,000 miles away from home where we can get the car repaired. And what do we do in the meantime? Well, that means we're going to have to find a tow truck. We're going to have to find a place to put it. And then we're going to have to get a rental car and do all that. And we did all that. And so it was not a very pleasant ending to our trip. However, I want to tell you about the tow truck driver. we, of course, called AAA, and they said, we'll send somebody right out. And they did. And they came, and very nice gentleman, actually pretty well dressed for what you usually expect in a tow truck driver. Very pleasant, very wonderful, very reassuring. He gave me some advice as to where we should take it, and he suggested that he knew the dealer for the kind of car we had, and he said, they're good, you can depend on them, and they'll make sure it gets to the right body shop if they don't have one that they want to do themselves. He says, you can trust them, we'll do that. And so we, hauled the car up, and then my wife and I got into the tow truck, and off we go. And we started to visit with him. I asked him questions. And all of a sudden, he tells me about, he grew up here, and then he went to college, and he got a degree and enjoyed that, and some of the things he was involved in the community. And he turns out he was very involved in his church, and we found out that we were a kindred spirit of many things, both in terms of our beliefs and our ideas, and we shared a common faith, and he was wonderful. Well, then I was a bit curious because he told me about his wife, and she was a teacher, and how she had this very responsible position in one of the good schools in Colorado Springs, and he was very proud of her, and he did everything he could to make sure that she would be successful in her work. He said, that's the most important thing. It's not for me. I want her to be successful, so I do everything I can to make her a success, and I help a lot with the house and the children, because then she has the time to do, because she's teaching our kids, teaching the kids, and that's one of the most important jobs we can do. Again, all of this is going on, we're driving down the road trying to find our way through there. And then I just was courageous enough to say, well, how did you start driving a tow truck? And he said, well, this is why I drive a tow truck. He said, first of all, I kind of enjoy exactly what is happening right here. I'm meeting a new friend, and I'm enjoying the conversation. But here's my point. I believe that God has called me to help people. That's what I'm supposed to do. And guess what? Every time I go out on a tow truck mission, somebody is in trouble. Somebody needs help. Something happened to them. They're not happy. They're sad. It's perhaps even bad. And now they need help. And every day I get to help people. People who really need help. I get to do that. And I get to do that every day. And I hopefully share something of who I am, and maybe even what I believe and why I do what I do. But I love being a tow truck driver. Not because, and he said sometimes we land up where there's some pretty bad wreckage and pretty bad stuff, and people are hurt. And obviously I don't like to be a part of that, but somebody has to be there, and I guess it should be me. And then I've got to get the mess cleaned up and get the car back up and then help them find a way, just like I'm trying to help you. And, as soon as we get done dropping the car off, I'm going to take you up to Enterprise, and we'll see if we can get you a car. Incredible. Now think about that. And that's how he views his education. His education was designed, for a lot of things, but it was primarily to help him serve others. And that's what he did, and he did it well. So let's think about that. I oftentimes have come to the conclusion that, in effect, do we train people in our higher education facilities to do things that tend to be self-serving? It's going to be good for us. And sometimes we really need to have a part of our life education to be something where we learn that the purpose of life may be to be less self-serving and more service-based and more serving of others. There we are at 10 minutes. I hope that has been a helpful thought for you. And maybe you now, as you think about your education, what you're going to do this year, your children's education, is learning how to serve others a part of what you're going to do in the education that you're pursuing. And how are you going to do that? As I pointed out in one of my past little presentations, I believe if I ran a university, no college would be more than 3 years. We don't need 4. In between the second and third year, they would have to take an apprenticeship, a 3 to 4 month apprenticeship in a trade. They would have to learn how to fix something or do something. Just to start, they have to learn how to fix something or do something. Plumbing, air conditioning, automobile, they have to learn how to do something and how to fix something. That's part of their education. That'll be good for them. And they'll find out how a lot of people work very, very hard to do what they do. Well, that's part of the story, but I'll finish up by giving you some time to think about that. And then, of course, I did what, of course, you should always do when you've been well served by others. And I think you know what it is, but we all need reminding. That's coming up. Hi, this is Stan Husted. This is Interesting Ideas, and we'll be right back. One of the more important things you can do whenever somebody has done something for you is to say thank you. I've also learned that I oftentimes say more than thank you. Just try this sometime now. I make it a habit of it. When someone has served me well in a retail atmosphere or environment, I say thank you. And then I pause and say, I am very grateful for your help. The word grateful always strikes people. I almost always get a second look when I use that word. It's a word we're not used to saying and giving to others. I'm very grateful for your help. On the phone, contacted, it was a problem with a credit card issue, and I took care of it. And it turns out the young man worked very hard to make it work, and I'm always, even though there was a problem, I'm always treating them very well. I sometimes say, I know you're not responsible for this problem, so I'll be glad to be helpful as I can be, and please, let's see if we can make this work together. So I always treat them as if they're the most important person in the world. And then I do the same thing. If they've done a good job, and most of the time they have, I say, thank you very much. I'm very grateful for your help. And someone then says, well, you might get a survey. And I said, and I'll tell them to give you a raise. And they smile and laugh and say, well, that would be nice. However, what happened was that after we got everything settled down and we were sitting in the motel waiting to take off the next morning and try and get home to Tucson, I called up the tow truck company. I wrote down the name of the tow truck company, and I called them up, and they answered. And I said, can I tell you about an experience I just had? And you could just see she winced. And I said, and I gave him the name. One of the best experience. I said, he was wonderful, so helpful. And you could almost feel her relax. And she said, you know what? We hear that all the time about him. We hear that all the time about him. He's the best ones we have. He always does a wonderful job. And thank you for saying that. Of course, I'll pass it on to him, and I'll pass it on to the boss. But that's him. That's him. That's who he is. not only what he does, that's who he is. Well, perhaps that can be something that we make a point of always doing too. And just remember, had a college education, and he was making a significant difference in people's lives by being a tow truck driver. Just let that sit on your head for a while. I'm Stan Houston. Please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you with your stories, your ideas, and I'd love to have some of you join me on the radio because you have a voice. You have a voice this year. It's time for you to learn how to use it. You have a voice. It's time for you to learn how to use it to help serve others, to tell your story, to tell what is true and what is beautiful and what is kind and what is righteous and what is good. You have a business where you can do that. So do it well. Take care. All the best. Till tomorrow. Bye for now.